I see these communist, leftist, and Marxist types like to quote Antonio Gramsci, "The old world is dying and the new world struggles to be born," as if to imply that the new world that is coming is a good one and the old world that is dying is a bad one. Well, for Antonio Gramsci, who was the founder of the Italian Communist Party, he was acting in opposition to Mussolini, to the fascists. He was ultimately imprisoned. And of course, there is some element of pushing back on traditionalists, calling it the old world. But in reality, everything is changing all the time. And the new world that struggles to be born does not look like a good one. I've seen a series of viral videos, and of course you have as well. This one from our good friends over at Clown World on Twitter, of what appears to be just people raiding a department store of some sort, a clothing store. Literally just taking whatever they want and running off with it. There was also a viral video of a man who was shoveling a whole bunch of Old Spice into a bag. They call him the Old Spice Bandit. And one major viral story that we're seeing right now out of Philadelphia is that a gas station hired AR-15 toting guards as crime spikes. Now, the most offensive thing to me about this article is that I don't believe any of the men were actually carrying AR-15s, although I guess technically one of the guys had an AR-style 9mm pistol with an extended mag, and another guy appeared to be carrying a bullpup 12-gauge shotgun. Local journalists asked, "Do you feel safer?" And my response is, yeah. Crime is so insane in these cities. The left is trying to downplay it, but more importantly, due to the nature of how our election system has transformed over the past 2 years, the Democrats can do literally anything and still win in these districts because people just don't care. But I thought about this with all the rising crime and with the crimes that have been affecting us. Yeah, I'm pretty much at the abolish the police point. Let's say once again. So back during the Summer of Love and all the mass riots, I was like, look, man, we need these cops to stop the rioting. And in some instances they did, in some instances they didn't. And we were fairly critical. Ultimately, I said, look, if these cities don't want police, then so be it. Let them have it. Fine. Abolish the police. See if I care. I talked to a friend who told me that in her sleepy suburb, the reason that she was in favor of abolishing the police is that they had very, very little crime, almost none, but the cops would pull people over and give them citations for nonsense. And so they were just like, we're done with it. And it got me thinking, yeah, I certainly understand that, but you do realize where that brings us. Over the past couple of days, the past week or so, I've been dealing with some very serious threats that got me reflecting on this and what it means. I'm now at the point where I'm leaning towards the police are actually in the way of us dealing with this properly. We've got death threats. We've got psychopaths showing up. Some men broke into my house. One of our staffers was there and confronted them, armed guards. A shot was fired. You guys have heard the story. And I'm sitting here thinking like, these criminals don't care about what the law is. The law is just impeding us. They won't go after these people. But they tell us we can't do anything. Meanwhile, let these people keep doing it because they're not going to stop them. So here's where we are. That video I showed you, I believe, was out of LA, Los Angeles. We have this wonderful story from SACB. California moves to shut down a third state prison as inmate population shrinks. The United States has been criticized heavily for having a large prisoner population, inmate population. And now the left can gloat and say, see, it's prison reform. We're doing the right thing and we don't need the prisons anymore. And it's like letting violent offenders roam the streets and commit crimes. That's not how you actually solve the problem. And they're going to shut these prisons down as crime just gets worse and worse and worse. And more people flee California for places like Florida. And then it will continue to get worse. My view of all this is the breakdown of the system. It's more than just law enforcement. Shutting down prisons because you're letting people go who are violent offenders. Yeah, it's resulting in a massive escalation of crime. And now we're hearing Illinois has signed the Safety Act into law, ending cash bail ahead of January 1st. I'm not a fan of cash bail. But clearly, watching everything that's happening, feels like this is the end. It feels like the U.S. is crumbling around us. Let me show you this other story. It's a big jump, but I'll connect it all. The crisis of student mental health is much vaster than we realize. Young people, a serious, I think like a plurality of in the polling, depressed, wayward. So what do you get? In Canada, 2017, medically assisted deaths could save millions in healthcare spending. I can't tell you what's going on behind the scenes. I wish I could. I can tell you what's happening on the surface and where these things will lead to. So let's read about these stories, and I'll show you some of these viral videos, and we'll talk about the ultimate results of the demoralization of this country and what that does mean. But when you've got rampant crime, politicians who refuse to enforce the law against these crimes and actually make it easier for them to get out, and police who are unwilling to enforce anything against these criminals. However, a police force that will uphold the law against law-abiding citizens, say people who want to own guns or defend themselves. You have widespread depression among young people, complete demoralization, sterilization, etc. Do you think anything is going to head in a positive direction? Look, I said recently on Twitter that I think the U.S. ended a long time ago. People just haven't realized it or they're denying it. But it's happening now in front of our eyes. The Democrats, of course, come out and say it's not happening. It is. And half of the Democrats just act like it's not happening, but keep voting for it. So be it. Perhaps it's because these leftists want the old world to die and a new world to be born. And they want to assist with that. But that means the collapse of the old system, your way of life, your comfort, your resources. And in the end, you will own nothing and you will be happy. So they say. Part of me kind of thinks that the Chinese communist style of doing things won't result in anyone being happy, but here we go. Let's take a look at some of this news. We got this viral story about the armed guards you may have seen. We'll talk about this and more. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com, become a member in order to support our work. As a member, by clicking that Join Us button, you'll be directly supporting us, and you'll get access to uncensored episodes of the Timcast IRL podcast, as well as many, many more videos, Cast Castle Vlog, Tales from the Inverted World, etc. We got a bunch of really awesome stuff about to come out. So with your support, we can continue to do more. And it's been tough. Not only with the crimes being committed against us, it's forcing us to increase our security costs. A simple reality. We can afford to do it. We're happy to have the security, but this is the reality. First, you've seen part of the video already. It's just masked banditos in Los Angeles going into a store and just taking everything. Now, here's my question. I don't know where this store is, but why isn't anyone stopping these raids? Why is it appears to be an Adidas store. Why isn't anyone stopping these people? There's not even a simple no. They just stand back and they let it happen. The result, of course, in California has been that with the dramatic escalation of crime, they're shutting down stores, CVS, Target, Walgreens, etc. Walmart is saying they're going to have to jack up their prices. In Philadelphia, a guy's hired a bunch of gun-toting guards to protect a gas station because the robberies, drug trafficking, gangs hanging around have just become too much. Now they say AR-15. I guess technically this guy, as I mentioned before, when you take a look at it, it looks like an extended Glock magazine in with a 9mm pistol. So, and if that's the case, it's a brace. I think you can see that it is. I don't know, whatever, man. I'm not going to try and guess what the guns are. Y'all watching can probably figure it out. Everybody was arguing yesterday over whether or not the bullpup the guy was carrying was a 5.56 or a 12 gauge, but you look at the barrel, it's clearly a 12 gauge. 12 gauge bullpup. Anyway. It's also like this in New York. Take a look at this video that's going viral. A school bus, cops running around screaming. Someone says, shoot the guy. It's just crazy. Now, I want to point something out. You look at a few viral videos, it doesn't mean it's direct evidence of a widespread problem. But it is a widespread problem. We've seen more than enough videos of people raiding stores. We've seen more than enough stories about Starbucks shutting down, about Wawa shutting down in Philly. It is across the country. Crime is out of control. Here's where I'm at. I called this the other day a distributed denial of business. So many crimes are happening. The police are incapable or unwilling to do anything about it. Death by 1,000 cuts. I'll give you an example. In Summer of Love, A guy told this story about how there was a fight breaking out in his apartment building in New York, in Manhattan, I believe. So he calls 911 and they say, "Sir, the city is under attack. What would you have us do?" Interesting. Which brings me back to the point I made in the intro about my friend who said, we want to abolish the police because all they do is give us tickets for nonsense. And there it is. If you live in an area where you're living in fear that the tiniest infraction will result in a swift penalty from law enforcement, perhaps you don't commit other crimes. People say, hey, avoid that area, man. You so much as look at that clerk weird and the cops are going to beat the crap out of you. It's broken window policing. I'm not the biggest fan, but let's entertain that. These people now want to abolish the police in this sleepy suburb. At least that's what my friend was saying. If they do, there will be no enforcement at all. And then someone will walk into your gas station and grocery store and take whatever they want, and there is nothing you can do to stop them. Then you'll be begging for help. That's the challenge, right? In these cities, you have people committing so many crimes. The police are spinning around in circles, unable to do anything. It's an old movie trope, actually, that when the gangsters want to rob the bank, they go and set a fire somewhere or have a bunch of calls go in, so the police get dispatched all over the city. That way they can't respond to the actual target. Distributed denial of law enforcement, call it that. And here we go. Despite all of this stuff being in plain view, Pritzker in Illinois is going to sign the Safety Act banning cash bail. All right. I'm not a fan of cash bail. There are some limitations, in my opinion. I don't know if banning cash bail is the appropriate way to do it. We want to get past this position where someone is accused of a crime and then they have to pay for their freedom in the meantime, and they could lose their job and have their life destroyed. Perhaps there should be a legal protection where if you are currently accused of a crime, you can't be evicted, you can't be fired from your job. But then, what if you're a landlord? What if this person was accused, and rightfully so, and now you lose all that money and you can't maintain the building? It's not so easy to come up with ideas for this stuff. Charging someone money for bail, I think, is an issue. There should be bail hearings. The problem is there's so much crime, the courts can't handle it. So what do they say? Fine, no more cash bail. You're free to go. Here's the end results. In California, this was reported yesterday afternoon, they're shutting down a third state prison as inmate population shrinks. Gee, I wonder why the inmate population is shrinking and crime is skyrocketing. Could it be that inmates who are criminals committing violent crimes are going out, and then the reason crime is increasing is because they're committing crimes? It's amazing. You know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the police are the answer. Perhaps the answer is a Second Amendment. Unfortunately, in Illinois and California, there basically is no Second Amendment. So here I'm watching all of this happening and saying, West Virginia is the place to be. You know, castle doctrine, constitutional carry, big open land, freedom, and personal responsibility. It's probably the best thing you can do. Because when you live in one of these cities, yeah, they'll come in, they'll rob your store, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, interestingly, in a place like West Virginia, I don't know if you have a right to defend property with lethal force, but I'm pretty sure in Texas you do. I think that was the contentious thing about Texas, that if someone is trying to deprive you of property, you can actually use lethal force against them. You know what? I oppose the death penalty, but I am in favor of people protecting themselves and being given the benefit of the doubt when using lethal force on a person who is on their property. To put it simply, yeah, there's an issue of some creepo is like, come over to my house and then tries to shoot somebody. They invite them over and then try and claim it was self-defense. But I think when you're on your property, the benefit of the doubt is yours. If someone breaks into your property for any reason, I don't believe you should have to be like, well, I can't do anything because I have to assess whether or not he intends to kill me or just take my stuff. No, it should be like the moment someone aggresses on your property, you should be allowed to assume the absolute worst. Now, of course, someone's driving up your driveway. I don't think you should assume the absolute worst. If someone's sneaking around in your backyard or hopping your fence, then I think you have to. So here we go. They're closing prisons. I love this one. We'll never be San Francisco. New York Governor Hochul combats criticisms about crime in NYC. We will never be San Francisco. Oh, man. Yeah, we won't. Take a look at this from KRCR TV, ABC. California crime on the rise. 2021 crime stats show. Well, yeah, duh. I mean, we're watching the videos, right? But don't worry, New York will never be never mind. From the New York Post, felonies surge 40% on New York City subways compared to 2021, but MTA touts more cops to stem crime wave. A lot of crimes happening in New York. Some have pointed out that, no, it's because during the pandemic, there was less crime. I actually don't think that's true. I think in many places, crime actually went up somehow in a lot of these places. And there was an attempt to kind of write these things off. I'll tell you where my mind's at and why I'm talking about this. Obviously, we've had stuff happen to us. I did a whole segment about it. And I'm wondering why it is law enforcement can't actually do anything or won't. And I think it's the system is crumbling before our very eyes. And I started thinking about how it extends beyond crime. I saw this viral video of the people in LA and I'm like, another raid. They've been consistent. People going into department stores and just taking everything. What's the point of money? How can the economy work if people don't work? What does your money buy you? The system is imploding. In New York, it's getting crazy. And then open air drug markets in San Francisco. They closed it down, but did it do any good? California is just in chaos. Prices are going to skyrocket because of the theft. Those videos of people robbing those department stores, that's a tax on the working class. It is unsustainable. From Eyewitness, ABC7, retail theft at Walmart may lead to raised prices and store closures, CEO says. I want you to understand what this means as per the collapse of this country. You're a working class person. You have a job. Probably, if you're listening to me, you believe in personal responsibility. Some of you may be just critics watching, but, you wake up, you go to work. Maybe you're a barista and you make a delicious cold brew with pumpkin cream. So delicious. And then after working for that hour, they hand you a crisp $10 bill and a crisp $5 bill. How about that? You then walk across the street to Walmart because you need to pick up groceries before you go home. And you notice that you used to be able to buy 2 gallons of milk or a gallon. You used to be able to, with that hour of labor, get a gallon of milk, a loaf of bread, and a carton of eggs. And now you can't. Now you need $20. And you're like, what is going on with this? This is the problem of Democrat policy. They simultaneously refuse to enforce the law on shoplifters. They release these people from jail because it's not violent. Shoplifting then causes prices to spike. Then people get out of their jobs and say, why can't I afford this stuff? I know, I'll vote for Democrats. The Democrats simultaneously say, we're going to raise the minimum wage and release criminals. Now, I'm not sitting here saying Republicans have any solutions. They're sitting on their hands going, slow down there, Democrats. But it's all just crumbling around us. Here's my favorite. Republicans hoped a crime wave was their ticket to a red wave. It wasn't. Fear-mongering didn't play out as planned. This is what I proposed in my 1 p.m. segment. How about this? Universal basic income for anyone who wants it. Let's say $1,500 per month. I know it's really, really expensive. But hey, after that, as soon as you accept but a single check, you are not allowed to vote. Or I should say, you are barred from voting. Maybe we can do something like if you receive any government assistance, you waive your right to vote. I mean, that sounds good to me, right? Any assistance, be it a tax break or otherwise. Only people who are paying into the system and working will be voting. And you can choose at any time, too. That's what I'm saying. On a 30-day period after you get off benefits, maybe not 30. Maybe you need to work for 1 quarter, 3 months. And then it's like, okay, you've had a job for 3 months. You've been working, or I should say not a job. You've been off government assistance for 3 months. You are now back in the voting registration system. Republicans hoped a crime wave was their ticket. Let me tell you the truth, my friends. Ballot harvesting is why Republicans didn't win. There was a red wave. Republicans got 52 million votes. They got 5 million more votes than Democrats. But Democrats in the areas that needed it, ballot harvesting came to the rescue. Democrat turnout on election day was apocalyptically bad. But they got all those sweet, sweet harvested votes because it's legal. And then they continue to gut and destroy the system. Dan Gaynor, writing for Fox News, says no one trusts media's spin on America's crime wave. I know. I agree. There's a bunch of articles, data, talking about how crime is getting worse. And then you have these op-eds all over the corporate press saying, no, everything's fine. No, I think it's all crumbling down around us. And this is what it leads to. A crisis for young people. The Washington Post reports. The change was gradual at first. Rihanna Alexander was always tired. Then she began missing classes. She had been an honors student at her Arizona high school. But last winter, after the isolation of remote learning and the overload of a full-on return to school, her grades were slipping, she wasn't eating, she avoided friends, etc., etc. Then, as she was finding her way, a girl took her own life. Then a teen elsewhere in the district did the same, then another. It broke my heart, and there were 3 different people who were going through what I was, and they never got the chance to heal. Ultimately, this is what it comes to. I'm not here to harp on about crime or stats. I'm here to tell you that all of these are major components in the collapse of Western civilization. It may not be that everything just ceases to exist. It may be a gutting of the old, and that's what the far left has advocated for some time. From the ashes of the old, we shall build anew. They used to say that at Occupy Wall Street. There's the quote that I referenced in the beginning, that the old world is dying and the new world struggles to be born. That was a communist quote. And now we can see young people are experiencing depression levels to an extreme degree. More than 75% of schools surveyed in spring said their teachers and staff have voiced concerns about student depression, anxiety, and trauma. The federal spending plans of 5,000 school districts nationally show that more than 1/3 intend to bring new mental health professionals to schools. It ain't going to help. I'll tell you what the issue is. Get your kids away from these schools. There is a cultural virus spreading. People need purpose. They need to have a mission. But where does that come from? Some people intrinsically have it. They're just driven like a burning meteor ripping through the atmosphere, just flames. Imagine Goku and Dragon Ball. Some people just know they must, they have to, and they're driven. Doesn't matter what their peers think. Many others look to their peers for guidance. What should I be doing? What is good? I don't believe that there is more value to being a leader as opposed to a follower. I don't believe there is any shame in being a follower. When you look to great battles of history, the American Revolution, there were leaders and there were followers, but all great individuals who fought and did what they could to achieve independence. There were many men who simply said, "Sir, you tell me where you need me and I'm there." And there were many men who said, "I have the vision, do as I say and we'll win." Both are honorable. Today, what we have is nothing. No leaders, no peer groups, no vision, no goals. Hollow. Empty numbers. Young people going on social media just begging for a certain amount of views. I need more likes, I need more views is all they think about. And they project. You'll see it online when they talk about all so-and-so wants is to get more money and have more views. And it's like the people who become successful running big businesses tend not to be driven by just making money. They're driven by something that eventually does make money. That's always been the case. For me, I didn't start making YouTube videos thinking like, wow, I'll make a lot of money. I was kind of bored, left a job and said, I got to do something. And I had a lot of things I wanted to talk about. And then all of a sudden one day I was like, I'm making money doing this. This is crazy. Now I'm running a company doing it. Young people don't have any of that. They're surrounded by people who are in a deep crisis trying to figure out just how to get some kind of social acceptance. They're trying to figure out what will give me purpose, and they don't have any. So here's the worst part. Medical assistance in death. CBC wrote this in 2017. Shout out to Clown World, who recently tweeted this article. It's clownworld_ on Twitter. Across Canada, Journal calculates up to $136.8 million in savings. Yeah. Instead of paying for someone's medical treatment, just end their life. That's where we're headed. The demoralization is here. American girl is accused of stripping away all innocence in book that teaches children as young as 3 how to change gender by asking doctors for puberty blockers and telling them to do it without parental consent. This is going to result in clear demoralization and destruction of this country. At the same time, we have this story. Kirk Cameron is denied story hour slot by public libraries for his new faith-based kids book. So Kirk Cameron wants to read a faith-based book, and they say no. But you can go in and you can read some of this, gender stuff, and it's totally fine. Okay. A lack of purpose, a demoralization, a lack of cognitive function. Clown World, how's it going, man? If you're wondering, I saw a viral clip from Clown World, and then I clicked it, and I saw other tweets, so I'm using them. Clown World tweeted, "You take someone out on a date, and they start eating like this, what do you do? It's a woman wearing a mask. She lowers her mask, puts food in her mouth, takes a bite, then puts her mask back up." Interesting. It's kind of crazy, huh? Let me show you a little bit more. Black female in headscarf attacked UVA Black Cultural Center. Oh, another hoax hate crime. Post-millennial. Feds warned of infrastructure attacks days before power station sabotage. Reveal similar attacks nationwide. Let's bring it all full circle. This string of hate crime hoaxes. The garage pull rope, Jussie Smollett, now this woman. There was a church where a guy sprayed a swastika on his own parking lot and then set fire or something. There was a former football player who wrote racial slurs in his restaurants and then damaged them, and then turned out he was the one who did it. It's for two reasons. One, obvious opportunism. The other is a lack of purpose. I think the opportunism is the principal one. Why would someone do this? Well, then they can go online and say, help, I'm a victim, everyone look at me. They're trying to get attention, and this is the way they found out how to do it. The other issue is, tied alongside that, the purpose. They have no purpose. These people are sitting around hearing stories of white supremacy, but nothing is happening. And they say, like, I just want to be that hero. There is no great war. There is no great hero. I mean, unless you find it. But so what happens is these young people, instead of seeking a purpose, they make one up. They attack themselves so that they can fancy themselves some kind of hero. I was attacked, but I will stand strong. Like Jussie Smollett crying on TV. They said this was MAGA country. It's all fake. Made up. I don't blame them. These wayward souls. Demoralized from youth. They're depressed because they have nothing to live for. They have no vision. It's kind of scary. Some people need faith, need religion. Some people don't. Some people have no faith, so they fill that hole with something else. Some people have told me, they've come on the show and they said, we're just wet robots. There's no purpose. And I say, that just doesn't make sense. Everything has a purpose. It literally does. Like, I suppose it depends on how you look at the word purpose. Everything has a function. It functions in a way that doesn't, I think they misinterpret that. Humans do a thing. That thing exists. I suppose the issue is when you look at life and existence, everything is doing a thing. A squirrel. He buries a nut because in the winter, he wants to be able to have food. So he wants to store it. Constantly working all day, every day. Well, guess what? Squirrels often forget where they bury a lot of these nuts. Those nuts then sprout and grow. A purpose. A function. And the function is developed slowly over time. Not every ecosystem has squirrels doing that, but it exists. And then once the system grows, it is an important component of that. When the wolf populations were removed from certain areas due to human expansion, the deer population exploded and started wiping out plants and causing ecological disaster. There was a purpose built alongside this system. We reintroduce the wolves to the local area, and then everything starts going back to equilibrium. There is a purpose. And there are people who tell me that, nope, there isn't one. It's like, well, humans do a thing, man. I'm not saying that you have to like that thing. Maybe some people get annoyed by squirrels burying stuff all over the place. That's just a human experience, though. Humans are organizing, building, expanding, creating. Maybe the purpose of humans is to create AI or something. I don't know. But I look at the universe and I see all things doing things. And not everything does that we can discern, but there is a function, a purpose to what humans are and do. That was lost on people, and it's kind of scary. You know, I was thinking about how, like, humans are separated. Humans have free will. Humans are very different from most animals. Most animals perform their function without a hitch. They live and die by evolution, by nature. Natural selection. Humans have begun to change everything dramatically. And that does give me a view of everything in a more religious sense. When you read the Bible and ask questions about humans and free will and choices, I'm like, well, humans are very different from everything else on this planet. That's for sure. Here's what I think. I believe that animals and early humans probably had an understanding of the universe that we have lost since then. It's not necessarily a knowledge, it's an understanding. And as we have become more knowledgeable, we've become less wise. That is, when we were more in tune with nature, more a part of nature, there were certain things we just generally understood. You live, you die. You have kids, you feed them. This is nature. This is what life is. But now we've separated ourselves from that. We have nothing but comfort. And now everything is crumbling down around us, the failures of our own hubris. So these young people grow up. They know no hardship. The hardship they experience is a lack of drive and a lack of purpose. So they want to die. I was watching a documentary about blue zones and why people live to be over 100 years old. One of the issues at play was purpose. I think they said there were like 7 components. One of them was purpose. And I've talked about this before. An old man was chopping wood and he was like 90-something years old. And they asked him, like, why are you doing this? You're old. Shouldn't someone else be doing it? And the old man said, what? If I don't chop the wood, who's going to do it? No one will. I have to do it. I can't stop now. They live to be over 100. But not like the important factor is they're in their 70s and they're spry and functioning. They live longer with purpose. These young people are depressed and suicidal, trapped in a healthy body with no reason to be here. There can be a reason if you decide. It's up to you to choose. But this is what we're seeing across the board. As Democrat policies continue to gut and destroy things, what's happening is many of these people have found a purpose, destroying the old world. Nothing good will come of it. You'll just starve. You'll own nothing. You won't be happy. Perhaps they'll be as happy as they can be, though. In the end, I think about it this way, with everything happening. I don't think conservatives will be worse off all that much for it. Typical conservatives living in rural areas, they know how to raise their own animals. They tend to, not all of them. They're more likely to know how to wield weapons, hunt, and raise animals. So when the cities collapse and the grid goes down, conservatives are going to be like, time to start doing the hard work to figure this one out. And the city liberals will just starve and die of dehydration and fight each other and probably eat each other. In the most extreme scenario, assuming something like that does happen. In the end, it's Democrats who are aborting their own children, sterilizing their own children, saying they don't want to carry on, euthanizing themselves. And it's conservatives saying no, having families and working hard. What do you think the future looks like? It's a sad reality. Conservatives are trying desperately to save the lives of liberals who just can't understand and don't want to. So what more can be done? The smartest thing you can do right now is make sure you and your family can survive, that you've got food, that you've got a place to live, that you've got animals, that you've got access to water. Right now is an opportunity. If things truly do collapse, well, you've got all the time in the world to get a backup generator, solar, crank, whatever you need to have some power. We got solar set up at our new property that we're expanding, and it won't last forever. But in the event of some kind of collapse, we'll have electricity. Of course, having electricity where no one else does means they're going to be coming to you, and they're not going to be too happy. So there's backups upon backups. There's responsibility and there's preparation. I don't know if everything's going to fall apart around us. It may just be kind of like a culling of sorts. The system breaks down for a bit, and then we bounce back and things improve. Fourth turning of sorts. Or it could be that we are witnessing the actual demise of Western civilization and the rise of Chinese communist power. I don't know. I can't tell you. I can just tell you this. On the surface, crime is getting worse. Democrats are still winning despite the fact that people's lives are getting worse. The process seems to be completely broken. So it's going to be up to you to figure out how you survive. Find your purpose. Build your community. Get out, meet your neighbors. One of the things we're setting up is that Saturday morning cartoons thing I talked about, where we're going to invite people to bring their kids, hang out, have food, and watch cartoons. I'm excited for it. We're going to build community. And then when everything comes crumbling down and the far left reaps what they have sown, well, that's fine. They can live however they want to live. There are 2 very distinct countries at play right now. If you want to live in these areas, then so be it. If you don't, then don't. But we'll see, I suppose. The best advice I can give you, learn how to use a gun, legally acquire one, and get away from cities. I don't have all the answers. We're doing all right out here. We're having a good time. We're expanding and trying to build these things. I wish only the same for all of you. Next segment's coming up tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.